Hi, everyone. I'm Kristan Hawkins. Thanks so much for joining us for this very special webcast on Together Strong, We Stand for Life. Today, I've asked my good friend Jeanne Mancini, the president of the March for Life, to come on and let's talk together about what's going on in Washington, D.C. Behind their decision to move the march virtually and what we can do as pro lifers in the next few weeks. Because, as you all know, this is not a time for us to stand back. This is the time for us to speak out and stand for life now more than ever. As you all know, the March for Life has been happening since 1974. It is the world's largest annual social mobilization. In fact, no other cause in the history of the world turns out more people every single year than the American March for Life. And it's so critical when folks come from across the globe to Washington, D.C. every year to stand for life. The question I always get from folks is, how is the American pro-life movement different from pro-life movements across the world? And the answer I always give them, Jeannie, is because we have the March for Life, because we've never given up, we've never stayed home, and we certainly don't want to be doing that this year. Can you just share with everybody what the changes are that we need to know about going into the March for Life on Friday, January 29th, and what we need to be looking forward towards?
Definitely. Well, first, Kristan, thank you so much for having me, and thank you to Students for Life. We just love our young people. One of my favorite pro-life quotes is from St. John Paul II, who said, "Young people are the best ambassadors for life." And I couldn't agree more. It's like you're our best spokespeople, and your energy is so contagious. And one thing that I hope you leave this webinar with, or this Facebook Live, is just how to channel that beautiful energy this year. So, but to this question, Kristan, this very important question, why did we make this decision? How did we make this decision? So let me explain that I'm part of the board of directors of the March for Life, and we have a really, truly fantastic board of directors, very active board, very prayerful board. And if you had asked me even like a week ago, is it possible that the March for Life would look different this year? I would have said, no, no, no. We were actively planning even amidst COVID and everything. We had all sorts of COVID protocols in place. We purchased many March for Life masks because we planned on handing them out at the rally, et cetera, et cetera. And so what's happened? Well, any of you who live in the DC area might have a sense of what's happened. So I myself live right outside of DC, and I visited DC twice last week. Folks, I know you're seeing some pictures online, but pretty much nothing can describe the war zone that DC is right now. To give this a little bit of perspective, there are 25,000 troops that are going to be in DC for inauguration. That is more than is in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria combined right now. That's in the little area of Washington, D.C. So these are armed guards, even across from our March for Life offices. There are about 20 armed guards. They've fenced out everything around the Capitol in downtown DC, and they've shut down all of the streets so that you pretty much can't go anywhere. In fact, starting tomorrow and then Thursday, and tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday for the inauguration, literally all ways to get into DC are shut down. Never in the history of my lifetime have I seen that. We'd like to believe most of that is going to open up for next week, but with an unfriendly administration and with a lot going on right now, even in terms of just the political tensions, we just didn't think it was safe for our marchers. It's a tinderbox in DC right now. And listen, this was a discernment process, and I know not everybody's going to agree with it, but I can tell you that I have cried many tears over this decision. I am potentially the most disappointed person that this is possibly happening, but guys, in my heart of hearts, this is the right thing, and I know that the rest of the board of directors believe it is too. And it may not make sense, and it doesn't totally make sense to me either, but this, I think, is the best way for us to move forward this year.
Yeah, I mean, is a organization that gets so excited about the March for Life, of seeing all of Students for Life chapters who come together across the country. it's, this is kind of like our Super Bowl moment every year in the pro-life movement, where we get together, we strategize for the coming year, and to not have that time, it certainly is a major disappointment. And I'm so saddened that it's come to having to make this decision. And I think it speaks volumes as to where we are. I would like to add, I was in DC in August when the president spoke from the White House. He was accepting the nomination from the Republican Party. And even I, who had been like watching the news and paying attention, I didn't even fully understand what awaited for us. Like when we exited the
Oh,
White House and had a salute. You were there, Jeannie.
I
You
was
got
there.
better seats than I did, I would like to say. I was back in the peon seats. But as we exited the White House that night, the people who were there yelling, and I mean it was a very dangerous situation. There were no ways to get an Uber. No way, you couldn't just call a taxi because the roads were shut off. There's no nightlife happening in the city, so there's no drivers. I mean, it was a scary situation. And
It
I've
was
been in a lot
scary.
of, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I've been in a lot of like scary situations with protesters and communists and feminists and all those people, and
Yeah.
I've never been scared like I was scared that night.
Me too, Kristen. I don't think we've talked about this, but I had a similar experience. That really shook me up. Although again, I don't think that we're motivated by fear in what we're doing now. But Kristen, for the record, I couldn't get to my car until 5 a.m. after that night, and it actually, in a way, it made me even stronger in my pro-life beliefs because I was so mad that people feel so strongly that they're not giving us the freedom to believe what we want to believe. Who cares if I supported President Trump and voted for him and what have you? That is my right as an American. And in a way, I think it's so important that we bring that into the conversation because right now, what is the role of us pro lifers? I think it's to get back to a place where we can have dialogue, where, praying and fasting so that there is peace, so that we can restore some of these basic freedoms that have been sort of whipped away from us in this scary culture right now.
Yeah, and I think for me, just coming out that night and just watching these elderly couples
Mm.
walk, I remember I ran into Lou Holtz, who was like stumbling, almost fell, couldn't get to his driver. Um, and I went up, I introduced myself and said, I'm a friend, I'm trying to help you. But just to see the hate in those who were yelling at us, people who never met us before, that what they were screaming and spitting, trying to spit at us, it really cemented for me why we need to continue doing what we're doing in the pro-life movement. That we've gotten so depraved in our culture that we've stopped seeing another human being in front of us. We've just seen this
Amen.
enemy in front of us, which I think speaks to why we need to keep going.
Totally.
With the march moving virtual, where it's telling folks to stay home, there's going to be a select number of leaders who are going to be marching, which I actually think is going to be a pretty iconic moment with all of these guards, folks, millions of folks tuning in online. Some people are saying, well, this spells the end of the March for Life. The March for Life will never come back. What would you say to those types of folks?
Well, we hope that the March for Life doesn't have to come back sometime soon because, like, we're trying to work ourselves out of a job. But until abortion is unthinkable and illegal, we'll be marching, just like we are going to march this year. It's not that we've canceled the march or that we're not marching. We will march this year. We'll march. It just looks a little bit different in a moment where we made a prudential judgment that this was the best way to mark the moment.
Um, One thing that I think I saw a lot of questions coming in on our social media. Folks want to know, I don't even know if you can talk about this. There was speculation that the march was pressured to make this decision by the District of Columbia. Did they play a role in your decision to pressure you to cut back? I mean, I know we filed a federal lawsuit against the District of Columbia for violating our free speech rights. Did they play a role in this decision that you all had to make?
Not really. So let me say a few things. So DC will not give permits right now to groups of 25 or over. And so they denied our permit. However, we worked so closely with them that they let us know that they'd still be there for us even in denying it. They denied every single group this year with anyone over 25. So but for us to pin this on law enforcement, it wouldn't be fair. It's possible that things could change when we have a new administration and we've been ready and sort of poised for problems that could occur there. But we really made this decision more of our own accord out of the safety for marchers. Now, that's not to say that pro-lifers don't get treated differently. So don't get me wrong. Like we swim upstream in the sense of media, in the sense of, Hollywood, in the sense of academia and all of these things. So I'm not trying to say like we don't get different treatment sometimes. At the same time, look, we've been planning this march for 47 years, and something that we've done is built really good relationships with the different police jurisdictions. So we work with the National Park Service, we work with DC Police, we work with Capitol Police. We started working with them a year ago. We had a meeting last week, we had a meeting on Friday, another meeting. We're in touch with them every single day right now about different things. So it would be unfair of me to say it's the DC police that stopped this. In fact, part of our rationale is we want to protect our law enforcement because they've been, treated so terribly this year.
Hmm. And blue lives matter too. All
Blue
lives
lives
matter.
matter too.
Okay, so what are you telling folks to do? What can they do to participate in the March for Life virtual? I know Students Life, we've planned a couple of things and we've spoken to you about that, but what are you telling folks how they can participate in the March for Life?
Great. Well, I'll say a few things with the March for Life, and then I'll just tee it up so that you can tell all the Students for Life things because there are so many great things going. So first of all, we always have something called Capitol Hill 101, which is a free opportunity. This year, of course, it's online. Usually, it's in person, and that's the day before the march. Because if you think about it, the march, you go up the Constitution Avenue and then you end at the Capitol. So in years past, and sometimes these days, and we really emphasize it, people are supposed to go to their elected officials and talk to them about pro-life issues. Years ago, they actually handed them roses, but after 9/11, we had to stop bringing roses into the Capitol, unfortunately. So all of that said, Capitol Hill 101 it's free. It will be at 9 a.m., noon, and 7 p.m. So three different times when you can watch it the day before the March for Life. Then the actual day of the march, there's the virtual rally, which happens at noon, and that will go for about an hour. And then to stay tuned on March for Life live stream on EWTN, it'll be on Students for Life, I'm sure, all of these different, big outlets will show the march happening, the march happening of the march with the smaller number of leaders representing the other Americans that can't be there. And then that night, it's a rose dinner. And by the way, we've got a great rally lineup, but we also have a great rose dinner lineup. Tim Tebow is our keynote. I got to interview him a few weeks ago. Such a great guy, and he's got such a beautiful story. And then Carl Anderson, the screenwriter of the Knights of Columbus, is receiving our Lifetime Achievement Award. And he's going to give remarks about kind of the state of the union of a culture of life and where we need to go from here. So these are all, I think, really engaging and interesting opportunities. And Kristan, what are you guys doing?
Well, where can everyone sign up for your activities? Do they just go to your
Thank you.
Facebook page or do they go to your website?
Check us out at marchforlife.org is the best place to sign up, and especially to RSVP for the live stream so that you've got the link ready to go.
Yeah. And then you can check Facebook because I know we'll be cross posting the March and the March. I think your training, your Capitol Hill training as well, will be cross posting that
Oh,
on our
cool.
Facebook channel. So you shouldn't miss it if you get on Facebook. So don't delete your Facebook account till after the March for Life, please. Whenever you don't delete your Facebook account. That we need your voice on social media, even if they censor you. I think Facebook censored us today with a quote from Martin Luther King, and they
Oh,
fact checked our Martin Luther King quote. So it's going to get bad, but we have to keep speaking into these places. So, what Students for Life is going to be doing, of course, we'll be participating in the virtual March for Life. I will be there in Washington with Jeannie and other pro life leaders as well. We're hosting, because we can't hold the National Pro Life Summit this year because of COVID, we decided to host something called Stand for Life Weekend. So, it's going to be in the Washington, D.C. area and plus 18 other major cities across the country, every region, and it's going to be virtual and in-person activities. So you can go to studentsforlife.org/stand number 4 life and you can register for virtual only or the in-person option. Virtual only will mean Wednesday night you'll have exclusive access. We have the newly sworn in U.S. Congresswoman from Minnesota. She's amazing, Congresswoman Fishbach. She's going to be joining us. We're going to be doing a training very similar to the March for Life. Why do we lobby elected officials? How do we do that? Thursday night, we're going to have a training with Abby Johnson. Friday night, a training with Laura Mazika from Civic Advocates. Every night, we're going to be doing free virtual trainings in a different area of how you can save lives in your community. whether that's reaching out to abortion facility workers or speaking out about Planned Parenthood's business model or praying and ministering right in front of the abortion facilities. And then every day we're going to have an activity for you to do in DC area or in one of these 18 cities. Thursday, we're going to be doing some sort of lobbying our elected officials, encouraging them to stand for life. Friday morning is the big event. We're going to be doing a life chain in the morning before the March for Life virtual event takes place. So while the morning rush hour is happening, we're going to be doing a life chain. We're trying to make it the world's largest lifetime chain.
Mm.
There's not really any like major records for the number, but I think if we can turn out over 1,000 people, we can definitely claim it'll be the world's largest. So we're trying for that in Arlington, and we'll be doing this life chain in 18 other cities during the morning rush hour commute. The secrets of the life chain are a little secret for security reasons, so you have to register to get the location. And then Saturday, we'll actually be praying in front of Planned Parenthood abortion facilities in DC and in 18 other cities. So it's a great opportunity if you've always wanted to get involved in pro life activism, but not really sure like where your niche is or where you fit in. There is a place for you. And so we're going to kind of give you a sampling of all the different ways you can get involved right in your community because as you all know, it's going to look, Washington, D.C. is going to look vastly different this year. And we cannot rely on the men and women in Washington, D.C. to save the lives that we've been called to save and to speak up for their moms and their dads. We're going to have to do that in our communities. And we can do that. In fact, if you look in the past decade or so. Where have the most lives been saved? It hasn't been from legislation being passed in Washington, D.C., sadly. It's been at our state capitals where we've lobbied for common sense legislation that ban abortions
Yeah.
when the child can feel pain or stop Planned Parenthood receiving, state taxpayer dollars. We can make a difference in our states, in our communities, and save lives. It doesn't matter who's sitting in the Oval Office. Our mission that we've been called to speak truth against the violence of abortion never stops. So, Jeannie, what else can so we got this March for Life, we've got the virtual march, we've got the in-person march, we've got Stand for Life weekend. I know I've got a big program on unveiling during Stand for Life weekend. Just everyone, just wait. Bossy Kristen's really going to come out. But what else can people be looking forward to in the next few months,
Yeah.
and how they can stay involved with the March for Life?
Well, here, okay, so lots. We do state march programs, etc. But here's what I really, 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 really want to say, instead of even like a program or anything like that. So, listen, the young marchers, the Students for Life participants, please, 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 please know. We're in a moment in history that at least I myself have never lived through. There have been so many firsts this year. So I'm older, I'm 48. I've never lived through so many firsts in my entire life. It can get a little scary sometimes, like how is this going to end? How is this going to play out? How are we going to continue building a culture of life, etc. I really want to encourage you that the Holy Spirit gives to the world what the world needs at a particular moment in time. And we've seen great saints raised up in different moments in time. We saw, for example, Saint Maximilian Kolbe raised up during World War II, and he was a saint of human dignity. We've seen Mother Teresa, of course, who worked in the poorest with the poorest of the poor in the slums of Calcutta in India. Well, guess what? You are the saints that are being raised up for this time, and your holiness depends on it. You're, having a good prayer life, living peacefully with other people in this really divisive time. That matters. This is a spiritual battle at its heart. And so I really, more than anything, want to encourage young people. God has this, and we need you more than ever. Doesn't necessarily mean that we need you to be the loudest person per se, like out there, but what we need you to be is the holiest person, because that speaks more loudly. Your joy and your light in your heart speak more loudly than anything. So I beg you to take that very, very seriously.
And that's so right on, Jeannie, because when I do news articles and reporters call me and ask me about the pro life generation, that is what speaks out to them more than anything else is the inner joy and the love that they see from this pro life generation, the hope. It's not the shouting, it's not anger, it's how come these young people are smiling in all of these pictures, and how come they were willing to give up their weekend to knock on doors, and still be happy about it, and why are they willing to get up at 6 in the morning to go pray in front of an abortion facility
Totally.
and still have a smile on their face? And I think that is exactly right. So thank you so much for all that you're doing at the March for Life and your leadership. I look forward to joining you in person, and the pro life generation joining you virtually. Together strong, we're going to stand for life,
Yeah.
guys, and we're not going to let this one setback stop our mission of what we know we've been called to do, which is to save lives and to abolish abortion, to make it unthinkable and illegal.
And
Bye.
Kristan, thank you so much too. So grateful.